And welcome inside the Backstage Pass. Always a busy day, of course, powered by the Sports Guys podcast.com. And of course, out there, KKTC True Country 99.9, and our friends too at HighTideCountry.net, presented by our friends over at the CadenGordonShow.com. Today's best country mix. And of course, out there too, as well, our friends at Bangtail Whiskey. Of course, some new sponsors to be announced in the coming days moving forward. And if you've not heard, if you've been hidden under a rock or not sure, or you're just busy with life, how that goes, the show is headed to the Grand Ole Opry radio station, WSM, in just a matter of, could be days here. The first show could launch coming up this weekend, July the 14th. We'll keep you posted there. Guest and times to be determined. Be on the lookout for that, AM 650, the home of the Grand Ole Opry, too. And I was just there in June with my business partner, Alan Price there. Took in some amazing performances, and it's always a good time when you're in Nashville, Tennessee. First show back for the first time in about a week and a half. And pleased to be joined by a Nashville recording artist, too. And the guy's got ties to Canada. One of the best writers out there, too, acclaimed singer-songwriter Jason Blaine to the show. Jason, what's up, man?
Hey, Brandon. Great to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. Hey, let's talk about this latest single with Last Love Standing. I just love your writing and how creative you get, because it's a lot of fun to get out there and put these songs together and come out with a lot of great tunes out there, too, and just kind of get creative in the songwriting process. And you guys did that with this latest single.
Yeah, this is a kind of a special one. I don't know. I heard Willie Nelson say one time he would get inspiration just driving around, and that's what happened with my last big successful hit, "The Road That Raised You Up." And then I was driving around, and this song just kind of popped into my head. I wrote the chorus just driving around Hendersonville, and I guess thinking about my wife. I guess my wife and I are celebrating. It was 20 years last year when I wrote this one and recorded it, and it came out this year. So we're 21 years together this year. But I was just thinking about a lyric about a love, the kind that, that goes all the way. And that's really where this song came from. Sort of an anthem for the kind of love that hopefully go the distance,
What is it about your songwriting process? I mentioned there at the top, to be creative and to have a lot of fun with something like this too. But there's got to be a Jason Blaine secret out there too when it comes to songwriting and just the message you're trying to convey to fans.
I guess the word would be authentic, believable. I just want to communicate. I just want to be real. That's the biggest. That's the number one barometer for me these days. Is just have people hear something from me and just be like, yeah, that's legit. And that's what I aspire to achieve. And that could be all over the map in terms of sonics or creativity. This one here, we let it be, sort of a pop country, almost with an 80s vibe. We had some fun with it. I wanted to experiment with sonics and have it be really cool. And but I think that the heart is there, and the heart comes through on this track.
No doubt. It just seems, Jason, that Nashville gets full every day of more and more talent. When I was there just a few weeks ago for the Keith Whitley benefit show that we took part in with our friends at Innovative Music Group, too, and we raised over $42,000 for Keith Whitley's Memorial Foundation.
Awesome.
Too. It was great to pay tribute to him. But that town just gets more and more flooded in a good way with singers and songwriters, and there's so many talented people, Jason, on every corner.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just did the listening room on Saturday night with a couple of good buddies of mine, Josh Melton being one of them and Matt Alderman being the other. And it was a sold-out show at the listening room, which is, if you're visiting Nashville, that's a great spot to go down and catch. Probably you'll hear. I mean, you could have, if you were here a couple years ago, you could have heard Hardy singing something that, for the first time. You could have heard the next Morgan Wallen big hit, first. So you never know. It's kind of like there's cool shows like that I've been a part of, whether it's Listening Room or Whiskey Jam. You can come to Nashville and you could hear it there first. And you're absolutely right, dude. There's so many great songs. I heard a couple the other night from friends of mine on that, sitting on the same stage together. I'm like, dang, dude, that is just amazing writing.
No doubt, too. Hey, tell the fans a little bit about the, kind of the challenging parts of this business, Jason. A lot of people don't see it. I mean, I know it just because we're involved so much in it out there, too. But some of the things that fans may not see that go on behind the scenes, that it does take a team and kind of like, everybody to make this thing kind of click when it comes to music.
Well, these days, I think that the biggest challenge is not being on a major record label, which I'm not on a major record label. It's getting on the cool playlists. It's kind of a mystery as to sort of how that happens and why some songs just land on some great playlists. I've had several do that. And then, it's just a challenge getting on, the cool ones, and the big ones, so you can get that music out there to everybody. So, but that's what this is all about, man. Thank you to having me on your show. If you have any platform, is especially one like this, is fantastic to tell people about my single Boy Mama, for all the boy mamas out there. And then, if they're tuning in, you're watching and you check out my song, it's really fan driven, probably more than ever. I mean, a good buddy of mine is in the top 10 right now, Drew Baldridge, with his beautiful song "She's Somebody's Daughter," and he was talking to me about my song "Boy Mama," and he's like, "Man," he goes, "you just got to stick with it, pump it out to TikTok, pump it out to Instagram, do every podcast you can, and just have the fans get a hold of it and just let it sort of gain traction." I mean, again, short of being on a major record label where they can just they have their ways of plugging you directly in. We just rely on the fans, the rest of us.
It's all about those country music fans too. Hey, let's talk about one of the projects you had put out, Diamonds in the Desert, which was, I know, 2022 when that came out. I believe it was February of that year. The title track was so good. And what I loved about it most was when you look at a song, it really sets the tone for the rest of the record. Talk about that and just some of the best highlights from that project.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much for mentioning this record. This record is just, gosh, it's right now at this moment, it's my favorite of my career as an expression of who I think I am musically. And that is to say that, like, I grew up on the Eagles. My dad raised me up on the Eagles. He pulled out a Hotel California vinyl when I was in my, formative teenage years, learning to play guitar, learning to write. He's like, "Here's a band, here's some guys you should know about." And that just gets in your bones when you're that age, when you're that formative, right? And that impressionable, which is that's a good thing to experience, to have get in you. And then also at the same time, it's the 90s. So I'm listening to Vince Gill. I'm listening to his guitar playing. I'm listening to his writing and his melodies. And little did I know until I got older and more educated musically that I'm like, okay, so when I'm listening to Vince Gill, I'm also listening to Rodney Crowell. I'm listening to Linda Ronstadt. I'm listening to all of these influences that Vince also had too. Eric Clapton, through the playing, through the musicianship. So, because it took me a long time to figure out, why do I love these guys so much? And so for years, I would tell people, these are my influences. But of course, when you're trying to compete on today's commercial country radio, you might not hear those influences. I know where they come from melodically or whatever, but you're trying to be competitive in a contemporary commercial marketplace. And dude, after doing this for over a decade, around that time, just before that time, man, I found myself struggling at country radio after a good 10 years of having hits in my home country of Canada, and just to kind of struggling with a little bit of a musical identity crisis between what I love and who I think I am musically versus where things are at and how do I stay relevant and keep up with with the trends and stuff. So I was really conflicted, and I even found myself recording some stuff that I'm like, man, this isn't me. I'm trying to have hits and be successful and feed my babies. But it was a great thing. The silver lining in 2020 was to get kicked off of the treadmill of life where we're just going, and really take time to kind of go, man, what do I even love? Like, what do I really love? And then I came back to listening to the Eagles again, listening to Vince, listening to I love John Mayer's stuff, especially his guitar playing and songwriting. So I said to myself, what if I did a record that, never mind radio, never mind playlist, never mind anything, just a record that sounded like everything that I claim to love and that's in my heart. And that's Diamonds in the Desert, from top to bottom. That's that record. And even the title, the song, you're right, and thank you for saying the song is what did set the tone for everything, because the whole time during those COVID years felt like we were in a bit of a desert, metaphorically, in logistically, reality, we were, we had no shows, there was a lot of uncertainty. But to make a record like that I ran into Ricky Skaggs here in Hendersonville, where I live, one day. He was actually at Chick-fil-A, believe it or not, with his father-in-law. And I took the opportunity to be able to talk to him. I used my little boy as a prop. I went over. He was only about 2 years old at the time, and I carried him over. I said, "Mr. Skaggs, there's somebody here who's a big fan of yours. Love to say hello." And Ricky was so great. Mr. Skaggs said, "Would you like to sit on my knee too?" I said, "You know he would." But I said, "He knows all your songs, has all your records, can play Highway 40 blues and all that stuff." And we struck up a great conversation for a good 20 minutes. I didn't mean to take up so much of his time, but I was telling him about this internal battle I was having between growing up on his music and the Eagles and Vince and Steve Wariner, and then the kind of music we're making today. And I felt really conflicted. I felt almost like I'm betraying my roots and my love of country music and these sounds. And he just put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Well, son," he's like, "sometimes you gotta walk out in faith." It's, and kind of implied like you got to walk out to the desert in faith is what I heard, and search for whatever's out there. And that's, I think that, not that he said those words, but that's kind of what I heard. And he said, "You got to plant those seeds and walk out in faith and make that music that's in your heart." And I was like, "Yes, sir, Mr. Ricky Skaggs." And it was kind of the little, he didn't even know it, what he did for me. It was kind of like the push that I needed from a hero to go out in faith. And since then, that record and the songs that came out of that record, they continue to grow and live this life online. I had hoped that, a sleepy little acoustic song like beginning of the End of the Rain. It's called End of the Rain. I wrote with Billy Montana and Jen Schott. It's not something that's going to be a banger that's going to blow up at radio and all that stuff, but it's a song that needs a life. It's a song that deserves to be heard by, out in the world. And lo and behold, I don't know how it happened, man, but it ended up on one of the coolest playlists out there. It's the Country Coffee House playlist on Spotify. And it's been bouncing around the top 10, top 5, top 20 of that for over 3 years now. It's become one of my biggest streamers with millions of streams from this sleepy little acoustic song that I love so much. And then it's pointed people to the Diamonds in the Desert record. And alongside the commercial thing, because I still want to do that. I still want to get out on the road and be able to play shows and compete in the mainstream. But I definitely plan on doing more of that rootsy, bluesy country music.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's a fantastic record. I love it so much. Diamonds in the Desert, make sure you guys get it out there across all those streaming platforms. We're going to come back and talk about one of my favorites, Hide from the World. He worked with a very fantastic artist. We'll talk about that more with Jason Blaine here. Of course, we'll pay a tribute here to our sponsors. Again, thanks to the CadenGordonShow.com, today's best country mix, and our friends over there, too, at Bangtail Whiskey. And, of course, 2 new sponsors coming on board there, too, the Front Street Pub in Smyrna, Tennessee, and our good friends over at the British Shop. If you're looking for some of those goods, man, go drink at the Front Street Pub. Always some great shows there on the weekend, too, with some of the great artists out there, too, the up-and-comers and emerging artists. And, of course, the British Shop. Jason, I was shopping there at like 2 o'clock in the morning after the Keith Whitley thing. So we got all the goods imported from London. And Chris and his wife do a great job over there, too. So if you want to check out the historic Smyrna district, check out our friends over there, too, at the British Shop. And, of course, right there, the Front Street Pub. More with Jason Blaine here on the Backstage Pass. Again, headed to WSM Radio, the home of the Grand Ole Opry, AM 650. And, of course, our friends out there, KKTC, True Country 99.9, and out there to HighTideCountry.net. More with Jason Blaine coming back with our sponsors. Stay tuned.
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
The Caden Gordon Show is a 2-hour show playing the best in country music. So check it out at thecadengordonshow.com. Again, that is thecadengordonshow.com.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass. And welcome back here to the show. Jason Blaine joining us here again soon. Headed to WSM, AM 650, the home of the Grand Ole Opry. They just got some fantastic new studios called the Roy Acuff Studios. I've been following what they've done at WSMRadio.com. They moved in there, I think, just a couple of days ago. And, of course, Coffee Country and Cody, you can hear weekdays there. Kelly Sutton on the show and Cody himself. They do a great job out there, too, and all the fine folks Eric Markham and Jason Mays over there too at WSM. You can check us out Sunday mornings, kicking off probably this week or next, 5:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. will be the Backstage Pass with times and dates to be announced, and of course our guest out there too. Exciting times for us as we embark on another adventure here on the Backstage Pass, powered by the Sports Guys podcast.com, and of course out there, thanks to our sponsors for making it happen in this new journey, and of course KKTC True Country 99.9 and our friends at HighTideCountry.net. We talked about the single, but back to Diamonds in the Desert, Jason, fantastic one you did from called Hide from the World, and you got to work with a very special person on this track.
Well, I got to work with three very special people. For sure, Kelly Prescott joined me on that song and added her amazing vocals. She's just one of my favorite singers, kind of undiscovered yet on a large global scale, but it's coming when people hear her voice and hears what's coming from her. But the guys I wrote the song with as well, Brent Cobb and James Otto, I mean, come on. Just if you don't know, you ought to know. Just Google Brent Cobb and Google James Otto. Just tremendous guys, tremendous talent. I mean, Brent is doing just fine. He's got high praise from guys like Chris Stapleton that are fans of the music and the writing from Brent and James Otto, man, just incredible. One of my favorite singers. I tell everybody who'll listen to James is the best singer I've been on stage with in my life. He just, bar none, has a tremendously powerful voice and a badass songwriter. So that song was born from a co-write, and Kelly's vocals on it were just sweeten the whole deal. But it's a cool track, Hide from the World. Check it out on Diamonds in the Desert.
Good stuff out there too. Hey, let me ask you about that. I got a chance to check out the Grand Ole Opry. Excited to be a part of that too, with our show headed there on Sunday mornings from 5:30 to 6 a.m. on AM 650, and of course iHeartRadio, and just tell people to play the Backstage Pass out there too. And just excited to be a part of this. But man, every time you step inside there, even as we got to broadcast there a couple of weeks ago during the Sunday morning country event, which was fantastic, and then to be a patron inside as a guest in the audience, which is amazing. I know you've lived there. You mentioned for a long time there near Goodlettsville, Tennessee, but man, every time I step in there, Jason, it's just like the ominous circle, and you kind of feel the spiritual side of it too as well, where all the greats are still. It never gets old going to the Opry, right?
You're absolutely right, and it remains. I did a radio interview this morning, and I was asked this question, like, so what's next, and do you have any unchecked boxes on, and it really hit a nerve, because the one that hangs over my head is playing the Opry. I have not played the Opry yet. And I say yet with an emphatic yet, because I don't know what it is or what makes me so bold to believe that, I might be able to get to stand on that stage too. But I've had friends do it, and, people that tell me, it's absolutely possible. You got to keep these dreams alive, and I have revered the Opry since I was a little kid, growing up in small town Canada. My mom's the biggest country fan you ever met, and we watched Ralph Emery, we watched Lori and Charlie on the Crooked Chase show, and I just grew up watching. It was Vince Gill, and it was Steve Wariner, and all the greats. Watching the Opry. So I've even got a book here in my office on the Opry that Marty Stewart put together. That's fantastic. You know the one I mean, right?
I do. Yep, I sure do.
So I'm manifesting that, and I'm putting it out to the universe and to my booking agents, looking at you guys, and I would really, that would mean the world if I can get to stand on that stage, man. But whether it does or doesn't happen, I'm very grateful for the career that I've had so far, and that with more to come, been able to feed my babies with music money. And that's a tremendous gift in of itself. And my dad reminds me of that, because I had one job in my life, one real job in the real world. I worked at this factory in my hometown for the first couple of years straight out of high school. And I remember my dad reminds me that I once said, if I could just make like what the bosses make, but with music, if I could just pull 30 grand a year, doing music. If I had to live on 30 grand a year now, I mean, we wouldn't be able to afford Chick-fil-A in this economy. But he reminds me, I did tell him I don't need to be rich and famous or anything like that. I just want to be able to have a life in music somehow. And here we are, some 20 years into this journey.
That's crazy. I'm like
Yeah.
into my 5th year now of this journey, and I'm like, man, just mind-boggling, headed to the mecca of country radio, which is still just amazing how you can just shake your head and go, man, this is really happening. This dream is coming true for this show to head to like I said, the holy grail of country radio, which is amazing out there too. Hey, let me ask you about one of my good friends out there too, and she is kicking some tail as we know it right now. Elise Saunders, now female vocalist of the year from CMA Ontario, first independent artist to grab that respective award, which is fantastic. But you guys wrote a banger of a hit. I'm gonna use that word too. We say it a lot of Australian artists that we have too, but Never Have I Ever, you got to co-write that with the fantastic Elise Saunders. I mean, just to see her track and to see where this song has taken her career here in 2024. Talk about that. And then also top 10 in Australia for this hit, and also top 25 in Canada.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'll call myself a protective big brother when it comes to Elise. See, that's the way I sort of see our relationship a little bit, like a musical big brother. I saw her over the years, working her tail off, in various different Canadian music events, and whether it was the CCMA, or the Ontario version of that. And then I invited her out. I have this golf event that I do in my hometown, and I invite friends of mine, and I call them my big fish artists. This year we had Dallas Smith and Aaron Pritchett. They're two very big names in Canada. Especially Dallas is at the top of the top right now. And then I also like to shine a light on who's coming next, the up and comers. And I had Elise out along with Kelly Prescott a couple of years ago. And I just, I love both of those ladies. And Elise, I felt like, man, she's just a song away. She's just a song away. She already had good songs, but I'm like, man, I mean, I've got on my wall, I've got a couple of like bragging things on my wall. I got a couple of gold records of songs that I've written with Madeline Marlowe that became big hits for her. And I just, I really like writing with female artists. I think that they've, it's always such a cool departure when you're writing with dudes all the time, and we're writing from our dude perspective. And then you write with a strong female personality and voice, and you could say different things. I mean, I would have loved to have been in the room as a writer on some of these hits from Trisha Yearwood and Faith Hill and the Dixie Chicks, Earl Had to Die. I mean, come on, like these are great songs. So it's another outlet, and she knew who she is. She knew what she wanted to say. Man, I just helped her tell that in song form, and I'm so proud, like big brother proud, to see what our song has done, not only in Canada but Australia too. The top 10 there, taking the world by storm. I'm just so thrilled that everybody gets to hear her sing.
She's amazing. EliseSaunders.com out there too, and just check her out because she's kicking some tail right now in Canada, and of course soon to impact Nashville, Tennessee, according to the word there too. We talk about all the time that maybe moving there coming up this fall.
Yeah.
Keep out, look out for that, because if she lands there safely in Nashville, Tennessee, she's going to take off even further there in Music City there too. We'll take a quick time out here again for our sponsors. Again, the show's headed to WSM AM 650, the home of the Grand Ole Opry too, and of course you can catch Coffee, Country, and Cody there weekday mornings. And of course, they have a lot of fantastic shows. They can listen on iHeartRadio and out there at WSMRadio.com. And of course, wherever you guys get your podcast out there, the Backstage Pass. Pleased to be a part of that. And also pleased to be a part of KKTC True Country 99.9 in Taos, New Mexico, and our friends at HighTideCountry.net. Quick timeout. Final segment with Jason Blaine coming up here. We'll do rapid fire. That's what's left here on the show. Coming right back. Stay tuned. More from our sponsors. Stay tuned to the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com.
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
The Caden Gordon Show, today's best country mix, is a 2-hour show playing independent and mainstream country music you know and love. Be sure to check it out at thecadengordonshow.com for more information on the show.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass. And you can also catch the show out there too weeknights on KKTC True Country 99.9 out there too in the LMNOC streaming app out there 6 to 7 o'clock Mountain Time, and our friends at HighTideCountry.net. Soon to be Sunday mornings there on WSM AM 650, the home of the Grand Ole Opry, from 5:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. And of course, heard in 30 countries or more worldwide out there from the holy grail of country music too. Tomorrow, T. Graham Brown and our friend Terry McBride and the Ride, coming by here to talk about their latest singles. And we will not be live. We'll be recording those for WSM purposes out there, too, so you can hear those coming up whenever we launch. Again, guests and times to be determined, but Terry McBride and the Ride. Remember those hits from the 90s? Everybody does. The Sacred Ground and everything out there, too, which is fantastic. And our friends, so T. Graham Brown, we just saw him play the Grand Ole Opry there this past Sunday, June the 30th. In fact, he headlined it a couple of times over that last week. I can tell you, Kaylee Hammock coming on here in a couple of weeks, and a whole lot more as we continue to track him down. Jason Blaine joining us here on the show today. Fantastic acclaimed singer and songwriter. All right, I got to have a little fun with this one. Boy Mama. You know that's a fantastic song. I love this one last December when y'all put it out.
Well, thank you so much. Just before we jump in, you mentioned T. Graham, T. Graham Brown there. And folks, I encourage folks to go onto YouTube and type in T. Graham Brown and Jason Blaine, Rainy Night in Georgia. Very cool. I did a collaboration, like a virtual collaboration with them, where they got an all-star band from Canada, tracked Rainy Night in Georgia, the great song, and put us together with me and T. Graham. And we did this really cool version. I thought it was so cool to get to collaborate with him. And one of the great thrills that came out of that time where we were doing things virtually, during Zoom a couple of years ago. So check that out. I love that. And so shout out to T. Graham for sure.
Good guy right there. Hey, I love Boy Mama. You got to tell people this story because that's just a fun, good old country song there. Yeah,
thank you very much. This is a special one. There's, I believe it was Harlan Howard that said, on the three chords and the truth thing, but also that sometimes you just hold the pen. So the good songs, you just hold the pen, and it comes from that special place, you can't even take credit for. And that's the case with Boy Mama. I have this song that's become a bit of a career song for me called Dance with My Daughter. And this song has gone viral. I was recorded back in 2015 and released in 2016. And if you type in father-daughter wedding songs into anything, it'll come up in the top 10 or top 5 or more, alongside great songs like Luther Vandross, Dance with My Father again. But so people would tell me for years that they would use Dance with My Daughter at weddings and different things. And so people would tell me, they're like, you need a song for mothers and sons. That's what we need. There's not enough songs for mothers and sons out there. And I always agreed with that. I thought, man, that would be really cool. Until I had the idea. I don't know why it took so long for the idea to reveal itself, but I saw a friend post online. She had just kind of married off her youngest of 2 boys in their early 20s, and she had done this post, kind of shared a bit of a poem of what it meant to be a boy mama all these years. Bang! It hit me like lightning. I was like, oh, please tell me this hasn't been written yet, and I didn't find it anywhere, the title. So I picked up my guitar and I wrote that song. I started writing it. It was one of those like, dang, why do I have to get this idea at like 11:30 p.m. at night here? It's like, and it was one of those quintessential, keep you up till 2 o'clock in the morning, just writing as fast as you can capture it and get it down, and then pick it back up in the morning and see it. What was that? What just happened there? It's like lightning. And it's just real special. We ended up shooting a video for it. My wife is in the video, and our little boy, both my sons are in the video. But I really just wanted also moms out there to see themselves in the song. My mom makes a bit of an appearance in the video too. But that's one of those songs that it's going to be a snowball of a song. It doesn't have millions and millions of views and hits yet, but neither did Dance with My Daughter. And now that one is up to 5 or 6 million views and millions of streams and stuff. So my hope and prayer is that, people will watch your show, will be tuning in as it debuts on WSM, and, share the song with your boy, mama, girlfriends, and help us blow it up organically, virally. You can check it out on TikTok. In fact, I'll post again about it right after this.
Sounds good. Love that too as well. He's one of the best out there too. We got to have him back here on the show. Always acclaimed singer songwriter. He's done a lot for the emerging artists in the career of music, and done a lot for himself too. And I know that Grand Ole Opry debut is coming true. In fact, I'll try to be there if he gets on stage at the Grand Ole Opry too as well.
Amazing.
For that too. Last Love Standing across all those streaming platforms out there. Make sure you guys go download. The latest single came out at the end of May and still going strong for the great Jason Blaine out there, terrific singer-songwriter. Jason, appreciate the time, my friend. We got to do this again, and hope to see you there in Tennessee next time I'm in town.
Please do. Send me a message when you're coming to town, Brandon. And definitely thanks for this platform and championing the music, championing country music.
You got it, man. That's what we do here. Again, WSM AM 650, the home of the Grand Ole Opry. You can download the app, listen on WSMradio.com. Again, on iHeart and all the platforms out there. The debut of the show coming up this weekend, July 14th or July 21st. We'll keep you notated on that too. Again, stay tuned at the socials for the announcement on the guest, and of course the times. We know the time is going to be 5:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. again on Sunday mornings. I believe Tracy Lawrence has a show there too on Sunday mornings too, so it's great to precede him. And coming up tomorrow, we won't be live again. T. Graham Brown and our friend Terry McBride from the great group McBride and the Ride still touring out there too. Again, Caleb Lee Hutchinson this week too as well. He's going to stop by and talk about his latest album, Kaylee Hammock, and a whole lot more, and just a huge amount of shows coming up over the next few weeks out there too. Give him a follow out there and download Last Love Standing across all those digital streaming platforms. We'll see you guys back tomorrow on the show. Won't be live, but we'll put those shows out for AM 650 WSM. Until then, take care. God bless. On the home of the Grand Ole Opry. We'll see you soon.